Who are you?
Whoever you want me to be.
Don't say I never gave you anything.
It's feeling epic.
3 words. 8 letters.
I remember everything.
Cue the sirens because this is an emergency podcast. Our first ever emergency podcast. I'm previously on Teen TV. I'm Jillian Benani.
And I'm Claire Wojciechowski.
We had to come together today because the One Tree Hill boys, meaning Chad Michael Murray and James Lafferty, 2 of our faves.
Yes, the Scott brothers.
Yes, who played Lucas Scott and Nathan Scott. They have really been in the news this week.
Yeah, the past couple days has been a big time for the OTH girlies. It's been very exciting.
I know. I feel like I've been like glued to my phone. I'm like, what is going to happen next? Like, I've barely seen these 2 like in the news.
In years.
Yeah, I've just still been seeing them as teens on One Tree Hill. And now they're like all over the place.
Yeah, I know. And it's kind of stunning that they managed to time this where these pieces of news came out within days of each other.
I know. I feel like it's kind of wild. I was for a second like, did they plan this together or something?
I would believe anything. Honestly, the PR machines, I would believe it if they coordinated these exciting things that we're going to talk about.
At least the publicists might have coordinated it together. I first want to talk about Chad Michael Murray's profile in The Cut. I feel like we have not had like an in-depth interview with him, like honestly really ever like this.
No, not for a long time. I feel like the most news he gets is like him responding to comments that like Sophia Bush makes, and then occasionally they'll ask him for comment, but we don't get a lot of profiles of him or anything like that.
And I love that this article was titled The Second Coming of Chad Michael Murray. I just feel like this is like a little bit of like a second act for him. And I'm liking it. I'm excited.
I know. I love this older, wiser, calmer Chad that we're seeing.
He seems quite like subdued, like, and I mean that in a good way, like calm, relaxed, like just like enjoying life. And I feel like I've had my my ups and downs with Chad Michael Murray over the years, and I'm just loving like this era of him, and I love that we're like actually getting to know him, and I feel like there's just been a lot out about him like over the years, and I just feel like after I read this article I was like, oh, like he just seems to be in a good place.
I mean, we get his insight a little bit on the One Tree Hill days, about what it was like early on, how he got started in his career. And I don't remember, like, I feel like I would have known if he had talked about that before. I would have remembered these details that he shared about, how he first got his start on, was it still the WB back then?
Yeah. And I really do think he was like, the main teen heartthrob like of our generation. Like he was the guy.
Oh yeah.
Now, especially like as that kind of like age group is like getting older and nostalgia is like such a thing now, like you kind of like look back so like fondly on him of like, he really was that guy.
I mean, to be like so in the spotlight that you're in 2 of the biggest teen movies of our generation in like the same year, I think.
And those movies hold up.
They do. They're both excellent. We're talking, of course, about A Cinderella Story and Freaky Friday.
Yeah.
He was rumored to be, dating both Lindsay Lohan and Hilary Duff. And they were feuding first over Aaron Carter and then over him. And it was it was a big deal in the teen magazines. Like he was at the center of the teen culture back then.
Oh, he was on like every cover of like every teen magazine back then. And I love, though, that I feel like this article really did capture him now and like how he feels about like being a teen heartthrob, because in the past these guys that like hate being a teen heartthrob,
they really want to run
it
from
known, and they're like, I'm an actor and I hated those days, or something like that. And I really love this quote from Chad. He says, "You may not know it, but you watching me on Gilmore Girls has a lasting impact. It makes a little notch in your heart and actually shapes who you are ever so slightly. Even when we're old and I've got crazy gray hair and everything else, we will still have that bond." I mean, wow, he is still, like, he is working it still. I mean, but like, I love that quote. Like, and I do feel like that is like so true. That is honestly like how I feel about it.
Yeah.
But I just love that like he said that.
I think it's really interesting too that he chose to talk about Gilmore Girls as being the show that has that bond, because obviously he was on One Tree Hill. He's more known for that. He did it for much longer.
Yeah.
But he like recognizes like how strong also the Gilmore Girls fandom is, and how, you know, that was the first time we saw him. And like I have a soft spot for Tristan. I was sad when he went away to military school. Or I wanted him to be with Rory.
Well, we really wanted him to like finish out that character. I think too with Gilmore Girls, it seems like he looks back on it with such fondness, because it was kind of like his first like big break, really. That show. And
it led to Dawson's Creek, which led to One Tree Hill. Like, you know, because the WBCW, they like to keep it all in the family there.
I know, he really was the first man of the CWWB.
He was.
What would you call that? First boy? First whatever.
I don't know.
But wow, what a quote that is. I was like, are you just like feeding into like Lucas Scott with that one or something? Like, did he imprint on you?
A little, getting real poetic.
I know.
All those
I love it.
Literary voiceovers that he was doing at the beginning and ends of the episode.
Producer Jesse is laughing.
There is a tide in the affairs of men. Are you familiar with that, Jesse?
I am going to write this quote and put it on my quote wall. That's like how good it is, okay?
Myself. I'm just like laughing because it's clear that you feel like he's talking to you.
Yeah. I mean, even as I read the quote, I feel like I was like blushing. Like, I feel like I was just like, oh my God, Chad Michael Murray gets it. Like, I just feel like he gets it. He understands, like,
how much the shows mean and how much these characters mean. Yeah.
And I appreciate that. That's all we want, you know?
Yeah.
It's not much.
No.
Just be bonded with me for life, okay? That's all that I want. We got to talk about the juicy gossip from this article, because he makes a very rare comment about his divorce from Sophia Bush. And he says, I was a baby. I didn't know up, down, left, right, he says, of their 5-month-long union. You move out there and you go, well, what am I supposed to do now? Get married? That's exciting. Which I feel like we've talked about this, where we have said, like, they all moved out there to Wilmington, North Carolina, like, didn't have anybody else. Like, it kind of makes sense that they had this, like, really, like, full throttle, fast romance.
Yeah, and I think, too, like, he's, you know, a young adult, and I feel like that age is around the time, like 23, 24, when you really start to feel like an adult and not just like, because before then you're typically in college or you're just starting out and you still kind of feel like a kid. And I wonder if he's like, well, I'm the lead of a TV show now. Yeah. I'm making decent money. He's got these movie offers coming in where he's like the male romantic lead, and it's just like, this is the next step I should take, maybe. Yeah. Like, he's like sort of like, well, obviously this is what we do now, because it's the
everything else has already happened. Yeah. Like, he was so young. I mean, at that time I was, 14, and I think 23 is quite old, but it is so young.
Oh, so young.
You can totally just kind of like see how this happened, and I think it's just really nice to like hear his perspective a little bit about this. Sophia's opened up about it a little bit, and I mean, she kind of says a similar thing of like, we were so young, like we didn't really have any business like getting married, like, but it's just like when you're in that little bubble all together. And then he also said, far more fragile than I ever put on. Everyone starts telling you yes, but I was walking around with a really pained heart.
Yeah, I mean, I think this article, The Cut profile, digs into his childhood as well. Not digs too much, but it addresses his childhood and how it was difficult for him. You know, his mother left when he was 10, and then he talks about having a really like near-death extended experience where he was sick and in the hospital, and so that really sort of going through those traumatic things at a young age, I'm sure really shaped him and had him sort of like, clinging for stability.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
And then to have all the fame thrown at you, I'm sure that was incredibly overwhelming.
I know. I thought it was interesting. I feel like he's talked in the past in interviews and stuff about like his mom leaving. I mean, he hasn't really like gone into it that much, because I'm sure like at that age you haven't even really like dealt with it yet. But I do remember him talking about like, oh, I really wanted the Lucas Scott role because I feel like I can identify with that because I had a parent leave me.
Yeah.
So I feel like that has been something he's been open up about. But again, not in really this way. Like, you can tell he's just done like so much like reflection and everything like over the years.
Yeah.
But I was shocked by his like near-death experience. I was trying to rack my brain. I was like, I don't think I ever read that in Teen People. Like, that really shocked me that he like nearly died and then ended up going out to Hollywood afterwards because his nurse was a model.
Yeah.
And set him up with like a manager. Like, it just feels like a fake story.
I know. I don't remember the details of this near-death experience, but I think it does like make sense that, you know, in the years after his divorce, he leans back into religion and does a lot of therapy and sort of is really like relying on this combination of like professional help and spiritual work to sort of find his place, because he went through these traumatic things, and then it sounds like he was just like, oh, I'm going to Hollywood, like, and didn't deal with any of the trauma of what seems like a very upsetting childhood.
And then he found stardom like quite quickly.
Yes, like almost not quite overnight, but very
Yeah, I mean, a couple of years, that's overnight.
Yeah, exactly. No, he was very young, and he, like I said, went from project to project to project, like didn't really have an off period in those early years.
Yeah. And then he also talked about how he lives with agoraphobia, which started at the height of One Tree Hill, and he couldn't leave his hotel room like when he was at an event. And this has like been since he was like 23.
Yeah, that is really, I don't know how you work as an actor like that. Like, that must be very difficult to get out of your house and go to work, to do events and press and things like that. Like, that's got to be really difficult to overcome.
I know. I feel like that was just like kind of sad. It was just kind of sad to hear that too, of like, this is a time in your life which is like so exciting. You're the lead on like this show that people love and get like so much joy from it, and you are just dealing with something that you can't even really talk about. People like didn't really open up back then about, I mean, really anything, but especially not about like mental health or anything like that. So I feel like this was just such like a refreshing read, honestly. I just thought it was really interesting to hear a little bit more about him and to learn a little bit about what he went through at that time. Because I feel like we have heard from a lot of other people in One Tree Hill. I mean, the girls all have the podcast where they really open up about like how they were feeling at the time. And obviously they went through so much behind the scenes on that show. So I think it was nice to just kind of hear from him too, of like some things that went on during that time.
Yeah, and a nice check-in, a nice catch up with one of our main guys from the 2000s. And I was happy to see that he's getting this attention. I'm excited to watch this Netflix movie that's been out for a little while. It was on my list.
It does not look, I heard it's bad.
Well,
I do want to watch it.
I mean,
but
listen, I'm not expecting it to be an Oscar winner,
No,
okay?
but
I'm still looking forward to a delightful, silly 2 hours at home on my couch, you know?
No, I'm happy for him. Like, yeah. I'd like to see more from him.
Yeah.
I'm ready for it. Put him in Freaky Friday too, when that comes out.
Oh, yeah.
They better put him in it.
At least for like a brief, if not a full character, at least a brief cameo. We got to know what's going on with Jake. Is that his character's name?
I cannot remember, maybe. But yeah, just a brief cameo will do. But yeah, on a lighter note, we got to talk about James Lafferty now and the sexy photos he released this week.
That really rocked our Saturday.
I mean, I feel like I was staring at those like all day. I mean, they are hot, hot, hot. Like, that man has never been hotter.
No, honestly,
I mean, he was hot, you know, he's been hot. He's a good looking man, but like, this is another level.
No, he is the hottest he's ever been. I was kind of surprised by this turn. And why now? Like, why? What happened here?
Well, I mean, so this is for a campaign for American Eagle.
Yes.
Which I was like, what One Tree Hill fan is working at American Eagle and pitched this campaign? I'm telling you, there is a One Tree Hill girl on their marketing team who was like, let's pitch this guy. He is looking good. And we're going to make him play basketball just like he did on this teen show.
And thank God for that.
I know. Like, can I send this person flowers? I mean, thank you.
Yeah, if you're listening, One Tree Hill girl at American Eagle marketing, get in touch.
Yeah, we need to hear from you. And producer Jesse, you have not seen these photos yet. So we need to see, we need you to look them up, and we need a live reaction.
Okay.
You can-
I'm nervous.
You can Google James Lafferty
American Eagle.
Yeah, and it should pop
look,
up.
it's been recently searched.
Oh, how about that? That's my
Jillian's
private
computer.
business.
You got to use an incognito window for that.
Okay. Oh. Oh, wow. I mean, it's his eyes are a little intense.
Oh my God.
Come on.
No, I'm sorry. It's just the first one was the stare. It's good. I mean, he's definitely hotter now
Yeah.
than he was. Like
All those abs?
I wasn't a big, like, I didn't think he was that hot. Like,
Oh my
I was
God.
younger, but now I'm like, okay.
I know. I mean, he looks good.
He looks really
Like
good.
I don't know what he's doing, but he
I
is
mean,
looking great.
working out and not eating carbs, I'm sure.
And thank you for that.
Yeah, we appreciate
James.
I
that.
love that
Yeah.
it's like basketball themed. That's so
I know.
cute.
That's what I
Right?
mean.
It's
Like,
nostalgic.
he wasn't like a real basketball player.
Like, you're not a pro basketball player. Well,
in our hearts,
in our
he
dreams.
was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Nathan Scott made it to the NBA.
I know. I mean, can we get James Lafferty in some more projects? Like, can we get him
Yeah,
in like
what is
some
he doing?
movies? Like, he's making his own
He's
show.
making his own.
Everyone's doing great.
Yeah, I know. And he made a movie recently, I think, too. I forget what it was called.
Oh.
Or he's producing stuff, and
Yeah. But like, I want him on like a TV show. I
Yeah.
want him on like on my TV every week. Maybe he's playing like
the hot dad.
exactly. Or
Yeah,
I'd even take like give me like him in a law firm or something.
Yeah, put him on a procedural. I'll watch.
Yeah.
I'm not a big procedural girly, but I will watch for James Lafferty.
Yeah, I want him on like a lawyer or doctor show or
Yeah.
something. Or
Yeah.
maybe he's like fighting crime or something.
Ooh.
I don't know. Get him some action shots, you know?
Maybe he's a former athlete who's become a private detective or something like that.
I love
Like,
it. Yeah.
you know-
James will write something for you.
Yeah.
Because you need to be working.
Yeah.
We need more of this.
Mm-hmm.
With like them being in the news so much, like, is a reboot coming? Like, are they going to do something together? I just feel like all these One Tree Hill people right now are so hot and like in
Yes.
the news that like, I'm not saying it would be like a One Tree Hill reboot, but I just wonder if they'll all kind of like do something together.
I would love that. I would love
Yeah.
some type of project. And they've worked together. They've reunited for different projects over the years in smaller ways. But I
Yeah.
would love something that like included more of the full group together.
I would love that.
That was more of a direct nod to the series, I think. But
We
you know.
need it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you everyone for tuning in to our emergency podcast about the One Tree Hill Boys.
Yes. Very important.
If they're in the news, it's an emergency.
Yes. If you want to hear more about One Tree Hill, we have a ton of previous episodes where we talk about Nathan Scott, where we talk about the show in general. They pop up across all of our various friendship, teen character draft podcasts. So all sorts of, you know, Lucas and Nathan content available for you.
I do just want to say that we all chose very wisely on our Teen TV Boyfriends bracket because he was our pick. He was the listener's pick.
Yes.
So Nathan Scott for the win. We were right, you guys. Good work.
Thank you again for tuning into this emergency podcast. We will see what happens. If more stuff comes out in the news, we'll be hopping on the mic again. In the meantime, you can follow us wherever you get your podcasts, rate and review us, give us 5 stars, and you can also find us on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at previously on _teen TV.
Thanks for listening.